For centuries, museums displayed these artworks without explaining the truth. Because admitting it would raise an uncomfortable question: how did an African kingdom master a technology Europe struggled to understand? These are the Benin Bronzes, and their creation remains one of Africa's greatest technological mysteries. The Kingdom of Benin, located in present-day southern Nigeria, was not some simple tribal society. It was a highly organized state with complex systems of guilds, laws, and a sophisticated royal court led by a king. The Oba, at the heart of its power and prestige, was a hereditary guild of metal workers known as the Igan, the Royal Bronze Casters. This wasn't just a job, it was a sacred duty. They worked exclusively for the palace, their skills a closely guarded secret. Their knowledge was restricted, protected, and passed down meticulously from father to son. Generation after generation, it was a legacy forged in fire and metal, a tradition that made the kingdom legendary. The Benin Bronzes were created using the lost wax casting method, a process so complex it's almost magical. It requires an incredible level of expertise in temperature control, chemistry, and precision engineering. Think about what this means to create just one of these masterpieces. Artisans had to build and control furnaces hot enough to melt brass, a feat of pyrotechnology that was far from simple. They had to calculate exactly how the metal would shrink as it cooled, or the entire casting would crack and be ruined. And before any of that, they had to sculpt impossibly detailed models out of beeswax, knowing that a single mistake meant starting over, as the wax model is destroyed in the process. This was not primitive art. This was industrial-level metallurgy, a showcase of scientific and artistic genius that was centuries ahead of its time. So, when Europeans first encountered these works in the 15th and 16th centuries, they were stunned. They simply could not believe that Africans had created them. Their worldview couldn't process it. Early colonial writers, anthropologists, and historians invented a series of false and frankly racist explanations. They claimed the bronzes were Portuguese imports, or perhaps made by Arabs who had wandered into the region. Or maybe they were just copies of European art. But none of these theories matched the evidence: the chemical composition, the artistic style, and the sheer volume of production pointed to a local origin. The techniques used were already centuries old in West Africa long before the first European ships arrived on the coast. The mystery wasn't who made them. The mystery was why the world refused to believe the answer. The secret to this incredible technology was never recorded in books. There were no manuals, no scientific papers. It was preserved orally, ritually, and practically, passed down through the intense, hands-on process of apprenticeship. A master would teach his apprentice not just the mechanics of casting, but the spiritual significance of the work, the stories embedded in the art, and the history of their people. This meant that the knowledge was living, breathing, and incredibly vulnerable. So when the British invaded Benin in 1897, burned the city to the ground, looted thousands of bronzes, and exiled the Oba, they didn't just destroy a kingdom. They shattered a chain of knowledge that stretched back centuries. Much of this technical expertise was disrupted, scattered, or lost forever. What survives today are fragments, whispers of the old ways, and the bronzes themselves, silent witnesses to a lost world. So why does all of this matter today? Because the Benin Bronzes challenge a dangerous and persistent myth: the idea that pre-colonial Africa lacked science, engineering, or advanced knowledge. They are undeniable proof that African civilizations developed their own complex technologies independently, without any need for European instruction or guidance. They stand as a powerful rebuke to the colonial narrative that Africa was a dark continent waiting to be enlightened. This is precisely why their true history was so often minimized, ignored, or actively suppressed. Admitting the truth meant admitting that the colonial project was built on a foundation of lies. The Benin Bronzes are not just art, they are evidence of African innovation, evidence of stolen knowledge, and evidence of a past that refuses to stay buried. The fight for their return is not just about returning objects, it's about restoring a narrative, correcting the historical record, and acknowledging a legacy of genius. If you believe in telling history without filters or colonial excuses, subscribe to this channel. We exist to restore what was erased. Thanks for watching.